Hello and welcome to the Dream is Real podcast. This is the place if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in New York real estate. Before we get started, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, turn on those notifications. We don't want you to miss an episode as we bring you great content and great professionals that are in and around the real estate industry. Today, I am with Rob T. of Mainstay Mortgage. Rob, thanks so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Now, you told me to call you Rob T. because that's what you go by.
My actual last name is Treo, Treo in Italian, but Rob T is fine.
Good stuff.
And much easier.
Glad you are here today. So, Rob, obviously, you're in the important area of financing and mortgages. Tell us a little bit about you, about your background, how you got started.
Well, I never intended to be in this industry. As I was telling you, I originally had a career goal in the sciences and graduated from Stony Brook back in 1981, planning to go into psychobiology research and teaching. But we lost my father the following year to cancer, and he was only in his 40s at the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I decided to take a break to give my mom a hand. You know, there were a lot of bills, etc. And, you know, life just has a way of happening. And I ended up working for a friend of the family in the import business. He was a Spaniard from Spain, and I enjoyed that, and I'm thinking maybe I would enjoy that. And things then, his company didn't do too well a little bit later. I ended up kind of scrambling, and someone I had worked for actually suggested going into the landscape business. It was like the last thing I wanted to do, but I needed money, so I ended up doing that, and it actually turned out to be quite lucrative for me. I owned my own business there for over 28 years. But about 28 years ago, I had a call from someone who was at that time married to the family, that he had Spanish-speaking people in his office and asked me to come in and help because they had no one who spoke Spanish.
And you are fluent in Spanish?
I am fairly fluent. It's a second language for me, and we have people in our offices. It's their first language and are very good, you know, much better than I, but I am very able to communicate and get things done for my clients. And what happened, though, was that there was a very large influx of Spanish-speaking people to Long Island at that time. So I was getting this call fairly often, and I decided if I'm going to be here, I may as well start making money.
Sure.
So I advertised in Tribuna Hispana, and my first clientele was primarily Spanish-speaking people. And that went very well. At the time, the industry was not licensed as it is today. A lot of changes came, of course, after 2008.
Right.
It was really a terrible financial time, but it's often called a mortgage crisis. Because if people are not aware, some of the banks were selling, you know, the mortgage notes. They were bundling them, non-performing mortgages with good mortgages, and it caused a big crisis. There was a lot of things going on back then, and it led to a lot of regulation, licensing, etc. It's a very different industry today than when I first started.
Do you feel like that time, crisis as it may be, pushed some necessary changes in the industry?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when I bought my own first home, I walked away from the table with tears in my eyes. People pulled all kinds of things, and it has helped to eliminate a lot of unscrupulous people from the business, you know. There are consequences if you're caught doing something not good. You can end up with jail time, fine time,
Sure.
etc., and rightly so. And I think it did clean up the industry immensely. You know, a lot of times I feel like some of the legislation is directed toward the everyday broker or banker, but the real crisis happened on Wall Street,
Right.
But always the little guy takes the fall.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Whereas probably a lot of necessary changes, sometimes it
Yes.
can make things difficult for even those that are doing things the right way. And we could probably talk about a myriad of situations
Yes.
where that's the case as well. But you brought up several instances where a difficult time led to something that was ended up being a positive change. You obviously went through a tough time. It sounds early in life with the loss of your father, but the catalyst out of that was it probably made you stronger, maybe more empathetic,
Yes. And brought a lot of versatility in what I'm able to do in life.
Sure. Do you feel like that has aided you in how you serve your customer today?
Always, yes. I know what it's like to be, out there working hard, and how much people put into making their life better. It never hurts to know too much. Like you can't really ever know too much. The more you know about each aspect of life, different professions, etc., the more you are able to relate to your clients and your situation. Sure. And that's very important to me. Like, I feel our whole office, we give a lot of care to our people. It's not just business. We actually care about them.
Right. And that's where I think many, even on our side as agents and on the mortgage side, since we're so parallel and in ways, there is a real rewarding aspect of helping somebody to accomplish their dreams. And you were sharing with me a little bit earlier, that Mainstay Mortgage does a lot of good in a lot of areas. Could I, with confidence, say something that full service, would that be a good way to?
Yes, we're absolutely full service. We do not only residential, but also commercial. And we have many different types of programs. A lot of people are always asking, we'll go through each and every program that a person might qualify for. Most people tend to want a conventional mortgage, which that was the norm. But it's not always the best, though. For example, we're brokers. So let me just start right there.
Sure.
If you go to a bank or to a broker, people wonder, what's the difference? Am I better off with the bank, or should I go to a broker even though he's third party? And I worked for banks and now as a broker for almost 9 years. And I found that being a broker was actually an advantage in that I work with many banks. So I have different banks that are more lean, say, on issues with properties that might have COs missing, etc. Some banks are like strict to like every I dotted when it comes to certain things like that. For example, you might have changed the porch and, maybe, they want a CO for the new porch, crazy things like that. You might have put on a deck. I have a lot of banks that turn a blind eye. As long as it's in good shape, it has the rail and it meets code, they're not looking for that.
And that's not always the case. So you go across different industries. Going to the source, so to speak, is sometimes better. It's sometimes more cost effective. And I think that's the misconception sometimes in the mortgage industry.
Yes.
It's like, well, if I go straight to the source or the bank, it's a better deal, but not always the case because you have a lot of versatility as the broker.
Correct.
To look at the unique situation. And correct me if you feel like I'm wrong, but every mortgage deal, every transaction really is unique on its own.
That is correct. I mean, over the many years, you see similarities, and of course, that's always good. Hopefully, you learn from the difficult, especially the difficult deals. But for example, if you went to a commercial bank like Chase, you must fit right in their box or you're not getting the loan.
Right.
I've had many clients who were well qualified for a mortgage with us, and at the last minute, for whatever reason, their debt ratio changed. Maybe something came up. They something like that can actually nix the mortgage for them.
Sure.
And they come to us, it's not a problem at all.
Got it. Because you can pivot to other options.
Yes, and a lot of because we work with a lot of banks that are specifically mortgage banks, they really are not a place to go to put deposits, et cetera. There's no checking, savings. They're still banks, but they only deal in mortgages. They have a lot more leeway. That back ratio might be high, but they see a good payment history, et cetera. They'll grant a mortgage. I just had that, in fact, recently. It happens to be a relative of mine. She has a very high back ratio. And I said, well, we'll help you, pay it down. It happens to be my niece. And I didn't have to. The DU gave us the approval. That's direct underwriting from the government. Once you get that, you're pretty much like 99.9% sure to get your mortgage if everything else is in good order.
Sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually have a financial planning background as well.
Yes, I do. I worked for quite a few years with World Financial and Transamerica, and I am licensed in securities. And I don't mix the two. They are completely different businesses. That's very important. I would never tell somebody, why don't you take out the money and invest? That's a big no-no. One of the things, too, is that while my office may do reverse mortgages, which is one of our products, I myself may not do. FINRA, who actually sets the guidelines for the financial business, does not allow us to do them. I used to think that was a company thing, and then I discovered it was a FINRA thing, because I'm like, why? But and that brings me to the question, like a lot of people will ask, is it still a good investment, real estate? And I tell them always, but if you're buying your own home, right now we have a particular situation, and you as realtors, I'm sure, are aware, there was a very low inventory and rates were very high compared to what they had been.
Right.
I'm pretty old, as you can see, well in my 60s, and when I bought my first home, rates were like 12 to 14%.
Got it.
But prices were low, and taxes were also very low compared to what they are now in Suffolk County. But I tell people all the time, and we discussed this, Jason, that when you're buying your own home, yes, it's always good to, make the best investment possible, because but your home, when it's for yourself, you have to want to live there, no matter if it goes up in value, down in value.
You can't just make your decision solely on the investment portion of it. If it's your domicile that you're building your life in.
If you really feel that way, then rent somewhere and just buy for investment, which is not a bad thing,
right?
But it should be your home, your sanctuary from the rest of the world.
Are you a homeowner who is looking to expand your home so you have enough space for everything you need in your home? Or do you want to renovate because the interior just doesn't work for your needs anymore? Or are you someone who's looking for a property, but nothing that you've been looking at really fits what you need? Well, my name is Catherine Serrano Sosa. I'm the founder of Rooted Architecture Studio, and I can help you bring those renovations and adjustments to life. At Rooted Architecture Studio, we focus on creating meaningful, inclusive, client-centric designs for homeowners and investors. We walk you through the whole process of design and construction and making sure that you understand what's going on, but take away all the layers so you can sit back and just focus on the deliverables of what we're designing. We make sure that your non-negotiables are integrated and your wants and needs are integrated to the best of our abilities. So if you are looking to do anything that I just discussed, or just have ideas that you might want to talk about what the possibilities may be, give us a call and reach out through social media as well, and we'll be happy to help you. And if you're looking for a new property, make sure to connect with Dream Select Realty. They're the right people to help you find the right property for you and make sure that your needs are integrated. Or if we're renovating, we can all collaborate together to bring that vision to life.
Let's talk to that part of the audience first. Those that are either looking for their dream home, forever home. Forever home. I use that term loosely. One
Yes.
that they're going to live in and be comfortable for a long time. When they look at today's market, if you could offer some advice that maybe lessens a bit of the anxiety. There's a lot of language out there as if home ownership is either out of reach or not something to strive for. We obviously disagree with that.
Yes.
But I would love to get your perspective and maybe some encouragement for that portion of our audience.
Yes. And again, depending on where you're buying, it makes a difference. But if we talked about our immediate area here in Suffolk County, Nassau County, we all know the prices are astronomical. Even areas that were once considered like, lower neighborhoods or lower cost neighborhoods, they've come up so far from where they were. Places at one time you could buy, say, a home in Shirley or Mastic Beach at a much more reasonable price, say, than Smithtown.
Sure.
But today, that's not really the case. An average ranch house today runs anywhere from like the 400s, and I've seen like 2 bedrooms in Rocky Point going for well over $400,000. Right. We do have programs to help people. As brokers also, what we're able to do is we put it sometimes as borrower paid, but we get credit from the bank because as a broker, we're usually paid by the bank. We do most of the work for them, and then they underwrite the loan, et cetera, and then we're paid. But they have similar rates to the going rates, and we can actually help with that. We're very generous in that way to help make that difference. We still have 100% financing, but people have to be aware you're going to get a much higher rate.
Sure.
You would think it was the opposite. The more you want to help someone, the lower the rate. But the banks who ultimately control, they're there to make a profit. So
sure. And the higher the risk,
the higher the risk, sense. The higher the rate.
So can you please define help? Like what would help be defined as for somebody looking to get a mortgage, and how Mainstay could assist?
For example, these last 2 years have been really hard for people because they're bidding. A lot of bidding has gone on for a home. So a lot of times they're paying well over asking price.
Right.
One of the things is if they come in earlier, before they start looking for that home, a lot of times people are going without a pre-approval and they find out they need a pre-approval. The best thing you can do is come in, get pre-approved, take a look at your credit. We offer credit services free of charge. We just hope that you'll have the loyalty to us and do the mortgage. We can help you improve credit. That can improve rate. But we found that even clients who were maybe more upscale clients, even bidding like over $1 million, were not having their bids accepted. So there's really nothing we can do about that, but we are there, constantly for them. They'll need pre-approvals. Those things need to be updated. We coach. We also have a large network of people around us, so sometimes, they may not be aware. We might have a good realtor somewhere that has a property, and sometimes that makes a difference when there's a relationship between the lender, and because if we send over a client to them, they will actually go out of their way, to help that client. But there's really nothing I can tell you that would improve your chances except just having all your ducks in a row and being ready to, make that purchase when the opportunity comes.
But when we talk about it here often, when you're looking to buy, you're looking to sell, you're really forming a team around you.
That's correct.
And I think what I'm hearing from you is the service-minded approach that you you bring to the table is that creativity of like, let's look at the situation. And even if before, and we encourage this often on the program, to get out in front of it. A lot of times
Yes.
we're afraid because we don't know what we don't know.
Correct.
But when you have the right team around you that can shoot you straight, you find that there are a lot more yeses than there are roadblocks and no's. You just have to have the right people that know what the right combination is. And if you would step out, let's say, give you a call and say, hey, look at my credit. Even if there are some things that would be a roadblock today, there's very little that can't be overcome with the right few steps, right?
Yes, that is correct.
We've seen people that, were in the 500s, connect with the right individuals, and then in under a year's time, they're in prime position because they cleaned some things up, they get the right things in order, and now they have a lot of options, but it's a matter of getting in front of it there. So let's pivot a little bit to the side of investments, right? So we talked a bit about the home that we live in, right?
Yes.
And establishing that and getting something that you are going to be able to be comfortable in. But on the investment side, particularly with your background, what advice would you give someone maybe looking to delve into the real estate investment side?
Well, that's a good question. It requires a much larger down payment. That's something we didn't speak about with residential. You can come in with as little as 3.5% down, or we have down payment assistance programs. We conventional as little as 5% down. You'll have PMI, but eventually that comes off on conventional.
Sure.
And again, before I leave the idea of residential, sometimes a conventional is not best. You might have a high back ratio, but otherwise excellent payment history. There are other loan programs that will allow you to still purchase. Now, to investment, you usually need a fairly large down payment. It does take 20%. At one time, we had a few that would take smaller down payments. We had a few lenders.
Is that the standard floor is about 20% on an investment property?
Yes, it's everywhere, pretty much that way. Here in New York, particularly, and I think too, like because of the nervousness in the economy, et cetera, most lenders will require 20% down.
And is that residential, rental, and commercial, or does it vary between the two?
It is actually for both. Commercial property sometimes requires even larger, up to 25% down. But here's something that's very important for people to understand. When a person has had a history, either investment or commercial, it can make the road much easier. And because I've had people first time coming in to buy, especially investment properties, sometimes the bank has required a larger down payment, 25%, because they saw they had no experience. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll have that rental income, et cetera. But, it's always rosy until something goes wrong.
Sure.
Because I've seen where you can have, for example, a tenant who is not paying the rent, try and get them out. That, here, particularly in New York State,
makes it very hard.
Yeah. The law favors the tenant over the landlord, and it can be quite difficult. I have done anything in New York that's over 4 residences is considered commercial. So I have had quite a few clients through someone who owned like 6 family houses in Queens, et cetera. And like some of the things that are considered violations by New York, sometimes caused by the state or the city itself, planting the wrong trees. So now the sidewalk has roots pushing up. That's your problem.
Right.
They planted the tree, but it's your problem, And it comes with a big caveat. You have to be ready for that. Of course you want to be a decent landlord, but you have to keep it business, Sure. Because I've seen that. I had the experience myself of somebody, renting and not paying, and it took 6 months.
Oh, yeah, it's prevalent. 6
to
months
get
is
that.
probably
That
fairly
was
swift.
pretty good, and I've
right?
seen it well over a year go on.
Right.
And the courts, again, I don't want to say anything negative about, our state or our court system, but they can make it very difficult for the landlord to evict someone.
Yeah, and although there obviously are some of these challenges, it's not necessarily something that should detract you from the goal, right?
Yeah,
But
and yes, Jason, thank you, because I know I started off on a negative, but there's a lot of positive, and that is not the normal case where you get somebody. Most people do what they're supposed to. They pay their rent, etc. It's usually a good experience. What I find interesting with people is that some people who maybe bought some investment properties like a few years back, those properties have increased greatly in value. But I always tell people, well, that's a unique situation. We've had a unique situation of low inventory, high rates, so these properties have increased. And, even if you went to build a property today, the cost of building material has gone up so astronomically. So these properties are more valuable, they're intact, you know what you're paying and you know what you're getting. The important thing is to get the property like self-sufficient, that it's paying for itself. And if you're making some kind of profit, that's great, but it's a long-term thing you want to look at.
Yeah, you look at in most cases you look at it more as a part of your portfolio that's going to grow over time.
Yes.
And if it has immediate profitability, fantastic. But you're to your point, you're looking more at long term. Right?
Yes.
So have you seen maybe a trend? Maybe that's not the right word, but if someone's looking to make that first investment, something that is maybe a smarter move, a type of investment, whether it be on the rental side, whether it be a commercial side. Is there anything that stands out? I know it's not a one size fits all, but is there a particular type of property that's a good start to get your feet wet, so to speak?
If possible, if you can buy like a multifamily, even if it be a two-family, it always increases your chances of success. If, say, one apartment is empty or one is not paying on time, the other may be a saving grace to you.
That's good
It'll
advice.
at least meet your basic expenses. That's something that works well. Here in Suffolk County, they're pretty good about allowing people also to have what's called a single family with accessory apartment, because they know that it's expensive. So, some families can sometimes help themselves that way. I don't know, completely the legalities, but when a lot of times people who want to upgrade their living situation, maybe they got a starter home, whatever, they can retain that property and still buy the other, and a lot of times if they bought at least a few years back, they may have a low rate on that property, and that property can become an investment property.
So in other words, somebody has, say, a high ranch that has the ability to have an upstairs, downstairs, converting that, and then maybe making the next purchase as... Okay, that makes sense.
They can do that as residential. You can, people ask me all the time, well, why can't I do it? Not a good thing. Do it the right way, and you'll avoid a lot of problems.
I think it would be prudent to maybe tell the audience, if you are thinking about investing, talking with somebody like yourself who can say, all right, well, what are your goals, right? Yes. I know you're not mixing the financial planning side, but I'm sure that never together, but I'm sure that it still allows you to see things from a different perch, right?
But, Jason, very important is like when I'm speaking to someone about, by the way, my forte is annuities. I don't really work in REITs or anything.
Got it, okay.
And if I was speaking as an investor, and people may hate me for this, I'm not big on like REITs, which are real estate investment trusts, because you have no control over that money until they decide what's going to happen.
Right.
Like
So,
sell,
so you're
et cetera.
saying find the
Do
properties.
your own thing. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think that's
There's been times where it's good, but these last years not so much.
well,
So
good
you
advice.
agree?
Yeah, no, I think I think it would be great if somebody, obviously, if you're looking for your forever home,
Yeah.
it would be great to give you a call if you're looking to delve into the investment side. I think
Yes.
whether commercial or residential, you could help them there. How could somebody get in touch with you?
Yes. Our office number is 631-792-1800, and you can just ask for Rob T, or that's how most people call me, or you can call me directly at 631-816-4030.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you so much for joining us
It's
today.
been a great pleasure,
It was a great
Jason.
conversation. I
you.
appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining as well. This is the Dream is Real podcast. Remember, like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Hey, leave us a comment too. We want to hear some of your questions so that we can, one, answer those, but also bring on great guests like Rob that can address your questions. Because let's just say it, the dream is real. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Dream Select Realty, on X at Dream Select Home, and if you want to be part of the program, you can email us at hometeam@dreamselectrealty.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks.